Okay, so we read the question, so we have a general idea about the question. So I was actually emphasizing before we got disconnected. I was emphasizing on the importance of the dates. So if you keep a control grip over the dates of happening of events, you will be able to deal with all these calculations finally. And this is the best way, in my opinion, to deal with the dates of happening. So what we are going to do is we will have columns created for each vehicle that we are going to use in our calculations. In this case, we have come across the information that is given to us. We see there are three vehicles, so I'm going to have three columns over here, right? It's not necessary that you'll have to have the same way, but I'm just, this is what I find the most effective way of controlling the calculation. So we'll have van 1, van 2, van 3, and we will start with our the first year. The first year is starting January 1st, 20x7, and it goes on to 31st December 20x7, right? So that's our first year, right? Okay. So we are going to go through the events according to the date of happening, and we will keep on recording over here. It's easier to understand everything outside the double entry system first. So we will do all the calculations here first, और उसके बाद फिर हम ये सारी की सारी calculations हम ले जाएंगे ledger accounts के अंदर. Okay, so 1st of January से लेके 31st of December 20x7, we are going to look for events. And if we have read the question already, you can see we bought two vehicles on 1st of January 20x7. So I'm going to put January 1st, 20x7 over here. And the vehicles were bought from Supermotors on credit, right? And the cost of each van that we bought was $30,000 each, right? So we are going to keep them separate here. We could merge the two vans because वो दोनों एक ही डेट पे आपने खरीदनी थी, लेकिन चूंकि इनमें से एक van eventually dispose off होगी, so it's a good idea to keep the two columns separate. So 1st of January 20x7, we bought these two vans, and then we look for more events. More events over here means we look for any other van bought during the year, during this very year that we have titled up, or anything that we sold during this year. But 20x7 तक हमने कोई मजीद चीज़ें खरीदी या बेची नहीं, because the next transaction happening is on the 1st of September 20x8, and that is the next year, not the current year. Our current year is 1st of January 20x7 to 31st of December 20x7. So that means we have reached the end of the year on 31st of December 20x7. And what do at the end of each year? We charge depreciation on our asset. Our depreciation policy is 30% of the net book values because it is reducing balance method. And we will continue, we will see that if an asset is used for less than 1 year's period of time, and then if there is one, then we are going to calculate the proportionate depreciation. But in this case, as you can see, the two assets that we had, van 1 and van 2, they were bought on 1st of January 20x7, and these were used for the entire year. So all we have to do is now just calculate the 30% of the van 1 and van 2, which comes out to be $9,000, right? And that is these negative values that we are putting over here, they represent our depreciation charges, and then we will be left with $21,000 of net book value for each van. So do we understand the calculations for the first year? Give me a green check if we do. Very good. Amal, Mehreen. Okay, Amal, probably. Yes, Amal. Good. Okay, now we start with the second year now. Our second year begins 1st of January 20x8, and it will continue until 31st of December 20x8. मेरी आवाज़ तो नहीं अब break up कर रही, अब तो नहीं कट रही आवाज़? It's clear? All good? Yes, clear. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So this is our second year now, right? That's our second year. That is our first year. So we're done with the first year. The second year begins 1st of January 20x8 and 31st December 20x8 is the ending date. So now we are looking for events within these two dates, 1st of January 20x8 to 31st December 20x8. Do we have any event? Yes, we had one event happening during that date, and that is 1st of September 20x8. We bought a third vehicle costing $35,000, and this time we did not buy it on credit. This time we paid cash. So I'm going to just simply list down it here. On September the 1st, 20x8, we bought a third van paying by cash, and that third van here, it was bought for $35,000, right? So we created the third column, $35,000 van, and we will keep on creating these columns as and when needed, because जैसे ही आप एक नई van या नई vehicle खरीदेंगे, you will keep on adding the columns to this. So it will keep everything very organized and easy to read later on. Okay, so that is it. I think first 31st December 20x8 तक और तो कुछ नहीं हुआ, because 1st of September 20x8 के बाद the next event is happening, that is the disposal of the first van, and that is happening in 20x9. So in this current year, there is no more event happening. So that means we have reached the end of the current year on 31st of December 20x8. So we will charge depreciation 30% and 30% of the net book value, obviously, because it is reducing balance method. If it were straight line method, we would have taken 30% of the original 30,000. But since this is reducing balance method, so we are going to apply 30% on the net book value. So net book value, $21,000 का 30% हम calculate करेंगे. So please tell me the values. 30% of $21,000. 6,300.
6,300.
Thank you, Asma. 6,300. Thank you. And both of these vehicles are going to be depreciated for the entire year, because these vans in the current year were used for the entire year from 1st of January till 31st of December. But this van, the third van here, was not used for the entire year. This was bought on 1st of September. So September to December, it was only used for 4 months, right? So when we calculate depreciation over here for the third van, we are going to calculate this depreciation as 30% times 4 over 12, right? And that is going to be this depreciation charge. Do we agree that it should be 30%, but it will be trimmed down to just 4 months out of 12 months, because this van was only used from September 1st, 20x8 till December 31st, 20x8, right? If we understand this working, please give me a green check. Iman Badr, we don't understand better. Iman, we bought this van on 1st of December 20x8. We always charge depreciations at the end of every year, right? Just like the last year, we charge depreciation at the end of the year, 20x7, 31st December, right? So this year, when we charge depreciation on 31st December 20x8, then we will see that these two vans have been depreciated for the entire year, because these were used for the entire 12 months period of time in the current year. But this third van was not there from 1st of January onwards. It was only there since September 1st till today. So if you start counting these months, September 1st पे है तो आप September को भी count करेंगे, then September, October, November and December. These are 4 months. So we will calculate 30% depreciation rate as usual, as we normally do for other vans. But for this particular van, we will have to trim it down for just 4 months out of 12 months, because this van was only used for 4 months. So that is how we calculate depreciation for the third van. Do we understand, Iman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then can you tell me the value? 35,000 times 30% times 4 over 12. 3,500, Madiha. Thank you, Amna. Thank you, Alicia. $3,500, right? And now we are going to calculate the net book values. So can you quickly tell me the net book values? 14,700, Asma, thank you. 14,700. And what about the third one? Third van? 31,500. Thank you, Asma. $31,500. So we have the net book values. Now we move on to the third financial year. So this is exactly what is going to happen every year. So थर्ड फाइनेंशियल ईयर, सबसे पहले आप उसकी स्टार्ट डेट और एंड डेट मेंशन कर दें ताकि आपको कभी गलती ना हो उस पर. सो 20x9 1st of January we start and 31st of December 20x9 is when we finish. So we are looking for events happening in these two dates because that marks the third year here, right? So what happened in these within these two dates? So do you spot any event happening within these two dates? Yes, we do. In the second paragraph, it says one of the vehicles bought on 1st of January 20x7 was sold for $14,000 cash on 30th of June 20x9. So 30th of June 20x9 is where this disposal of the non-current asset has happened. Sorry. So 30th of June 20x9, we don't have to add another column to it because we are not adding a fourth van to our fleet. In fact, one of these two vans, van 1 and van 2, one of these two vans is sold. So let's assume van 1 was sold. It doesn't matter you choose van 2 or van 1 because they were both bought on the same date, 1st of January, right? So let's say if this van was sold, so 14,700. But since our depreciation policy is that we are going to consider the number of months of usage, so we all agree that this van 1 was sold on 30th of June. That means from 1st of January 20x9 to 30th of June 20x9, this van was used for 6 months. And that means before we dispose it off, we are going to charge 6 months depreciation on this van. This is not a usual way of charging depreciation because we normally charge depreciation on disposed of asset disposal, right? So that would be based on 30% times 6 over 12, right?
Can you explain this again?
Yes, I will. Okay. So we normally do not charge depreciations midway an accounting year. We always charge depreciations at the end of the year. But the problem is that van 1 is being sold on 30th of June. So that means by 31st of December, when we are ready to charge depreciation, this van will cease to exist and will be eliminated from our records. So that is why we'll have to make an exception to the rule over here. Normally, we charge depreciations on 31st of December every year, just like you can see the previous 2 years, right? But this year, we will have to make an exceptional entry here. We'll have to create an exception. We will create an exception by charging depreciation only on this particular van which we are selling right now. Why are we doing this? Because if we don't do this, this particular van will not exist on 31st of December 20x9, and that means we will not be able to charge any depreciation. Our depreciation policy is to charge depreciation based on each month of the ownership. So before van 1 was sold, it was owned for 6 months and used for 6 months, and that is why it must be the depreciation for 6 months must be accounted for before we dispose of this van. So that is why we are going to create this 6 months depreciation charge here. So do we understand this part? The other two vans are not going to be depreciated. The other two vans are going to be depreciated in the normal fashion on 31st of December because they will continue to exist by then. But van 1 will cease to exist. So that is the last chance we have to charge depreciation on van 1. So we understand that we will have to create an exception here for just van 1, not for van 2 and 3, but just for van 1. And we will calculate the number of months for which it was used within the current year. So in the current year, 1st of January से हमारा current year शुरू होता है और 30th of June तक हो जाता है, तो वो 6 months. अगर आप January से June तक calculate करें 20x9 में, तो वो 6 months बनते हैं मेरी, is it? 1st of January से
Sir,
आप
is this the same thing? Sir,
is
is this the same thing as 30% in of 4 over 12?
or yeah, exactly. It's the same reason why we charged 4 months depreciation on this van, because this van was only used for 4 months before the end of the year, and this van is going to be depreciated for 6 months, because 1st of January पे आपका current year शुरू होता है और 30th of June पे you are selling this van. So that means you used this van for 6 months before it was sold. So that is why you're going to create a 6 months depreciation charge over here. Marine, do we understand? It's 6 months if you calculate from 1st of January 20x9 to 30th of June 20x9. And if you do understand, then give me a value. What value should be here? Over here. We are not going to charge any depreciation on 30th of June on the remaining vans. There is no need to do that. 2205, thank you. Marine was dropped here. Okay. So 2205 is going to be depreciation charge over here, and then we are going to close down this column after calculating the last net book value on this. Can you tell me the net book value? For van 1 only, 12,495. So we understand that the van 1 column will be permanently closed down. Why? Because van 1 does not exist for us anymore. Van 1 has been sold. So van 1 column needs not to continue in future, right? That is why we closed it down. So just for van 1 column, do you understand everything in van 1 column, this entire thing? If you do, then give me a green check. We'll come to the other vans later on. I'm only focused on van 1 right now because that is going to play a very important role later on in the questions, right? Okay, Merin, Minal, and Misha. Minal, Minal, आपको समझ आ रही बेटे? Okay, looks like Minal is disconnected. All right, so we will continue our work. So when one column permanently closes down, but van 2 and van 3 columns will continue, since these are the assets which will still exist in our business. So we reach 31st of December. There is nothing else happening in 20x9. So 31st of December, we will move on and charge the remaining, the normal depreciation as we normally do, right? So depreciation will be charged on 30% per annum on these two remaining vans here and here, because these two continue to exist. So can you tell me the depreciation charges for these two vans? And we are going to charge a full 30%, 9450 for van 2 or van 3. Asma? Acha, 4410 and 9450. Okay. 4410. Please, everyone, do your own calculations. Don't copy paste values from the screen here, right? एंड वो इसलिए क्योंकि अगर अस्मा से या किसी जो भी कैलकुलेशन कर रहा है अगर वो गलती होगी तो फिर सब लोग उस गलती को कॉपी पेस्ट कर देंगे सो यू नीड टू डू योर ओन वर्क एंड इफ यू स्पॉट अ रॉन्ग वैल्यू देन प्लीज लेट मी नो राइट अवे okay so we understand that the rest of the two vans will continue to exist, their columns will continue to exist, and but van one's column will cease to exist, that is over, so we can even get rid of this right here. So what are the net book values now for van 2 and van 3? Van 2 is 10,290. Thank you, Asma. And van 3 is 22,050. Right? So this depreciation schedule continues to move on just like that. So now the entire depreciation schedule, we are required to calculate these depreciation calculations for the 3 years. Although we were not required to do it like this, but actually we're required to just show the accounts, the ledger accounts. But we have done the ledger accounts. This is the first year, this is the second year, and this is the third year. So now looking at the entire depreciation schedule, if you understand everything, then give me a green check. If you don't have, if you still have issues and you don't understand something, then unmute and ask. Amna Kashif, done. Fajr Babar, Misha. Okay, Fajr. Yes, very good. सो बेसिकली डिप्रिसिएशन कैलकुलेशन इस तरह से करने का आपको एक और बहुत बड़ा फ़ायदा होता है कि आपके जहन में एग्जैक्ट अब स्केच बन गया हुआ है कि आपकी डबल एंट्री रिकॉर्ड्स में ये अमाउंट किस तरीके से शो होंगे. सो व्हेन वी नाउ begin to answer our questions, I will show them here on the second page, right? So now 9.3 part A is that we have to, this was not the answer to the question, this was just calculations of workings. So 9.3 part A requires us to show the vehicles account. And yesterday we learned that every time a non-current asset account is made, it will always be reflecting its cost, right? Because the depreciations related to those non-current assets are going to be accounted for in a separate account, which is asked for part B. And part B is where we will be making a provision for depreciation account, right? I'm making these big accounts because I'll be needing 3 years worth of transactions here. So that's why I'm making these bigger accounts. So we will have the provision for depreciation account. And every non-current asset will have its own separate provision for depreciation account. So we'll have vehicles account at cost, and we'll have a provision for depreciation account for vehicles separately. Same goes with furniture and fixtures and जो भी आपके premises and all जो भी non-current assets. So before we begin, I just want you to recall everything from yesterday. So do you agree that this is an asset account? So the debit side of the asset account represents increase in the asset, and the credit side represents decrease in the asset. And provision being a credit natured account, the credit side represents increase and the debit side represents decrease. If you understand this, please give me a green check. I'm not teaching you anything new today over here. It's just that what we did yesterday, right? Minal? Minal is still struggling with internet, I guess. And we also discussed one thing yesterday, that this part is actually representing what? It represents total depreciation, or you can say accumulated depreciation, a more appropriate way to put it. और कल हमने इन सब की एंट्रीज को देखा था कल कि इनके जब भी कोई एंट्रीज यहाँ पे एग्जिस्ट करती हैं तो उसका क्या मतलब होता है. So accumulated depreciation, right? So now we don't even need the book. I'm going to put the books on the side since we have translated all the information given in the book question over here in this table. So now we are going to do is take 1 year at a time, and we are going to post it in the double entry records according to these events. So let's start according to the date. So the first thing is this event here, right? On 1st of January 2007, Supermotor से आपने credit में good vans 1 and van 2 खरीदी थी $30,000 each. So when we come down here to record this event here, so obviously this is going to be recorded on the vehicles account, the debit side, since your vehicles in the asset is increasing. The information you could write 60,000 or you could write 30,000 twice, because these both will represent the Supermotors vans, वो जो आपने दो vans खरीदी हैं, van 1 and van 2, Supermotors, and the date would be January 1st, 20x7, right? We understand this entry, we understand why it appears on the debit side here, because our vehicle's balance is increasing, right? So give me a green check if you understand the first entry on these accounts. Very well done, Amal, Minal, Marine. Okay, good. So We will refer back to the schedule. We are done with this part. Now the next entry is this entry here. This is the depreciation charging entry happening on 31st of December, right? So depreciation key entry, obviously we are going to choose the depreciation account for that. And then we have to decide whether it should come on the debit side or on the credit side, depending on accumulated depreciation or total depreciation. Is it increasing or decreasing? So obviously when you charge depreciation, the accumulated depreciation balance increases. So we will choose the credit side. We will choose the correct date, 31st of December 20x7. We will put the amount over here. The amount will be your total depreciation, which is $18,000. You could write 9,000 separately each again, or you can write, you can save yourself, or let's say, चलो बेहतर ये है कि हम इकट्ठी एक एंट्री कर दें. You can write like this, 9,000, 9,000, right? And these two will be charged in the income statement because we know these are going to be treated as an expense in the income statement. That is your depreciation charge, and we have seen that chapter before. We know how depreciation is going to be treated in your income statement as an expense. We will choose the credit side, and if we agree with this entry on the credit side of the provision for depreciation, please give me a green check. Okay. Alina Vakas. Okay. Minal. Minal. Minan is struggling with the green check part, but I hope that you do understand. If you don't understand, then you can leave a text comment here in the chat in case. Okay, so now first year's accounting is done. Let me just go back to the schedule. So we are done with this entire thing here. First year's accounting is done. You must be wondering, what about the $21,000 net book value? Where did we show them? I'll come to that in a bit, but the two events happening on within these first year are done. So what do we do at the end of every financial year? We always close down our accounts. So we are going to shut down this account and we will bring and calculate the closing balance. So carried down balance will be $60,000. This is your balance carried down. The date will be understood 31st December 20x7, end of the year. The last thing you do is you calculate the balances in accounts to be carried forward to the next period. Okay. So this is how the balance will be calculated. And then we know this is a debit balance, and that is why we are going to bring down this balance on the very first day of the next financial year, which is 1st of January, right? Let me just put it here a little closer, right? January the 1st, 20x8. This is your balance brought down, right? So we understand the closing of vehicles account and the reopening of vehicles account in the next year, just like we always do. We close down the account, determine the balance carried down, bring it down the next year, next financial day. Amal, nahi samajh aa raha bete? Minal and Misha? Misha? Okay. Fajr, you need to ask something bete? Aapka mic on hai? All right. Now we are going to do the same for provision for depreciation account. We have the $18,000 here, right? And we are going to calculate the balance carried down just like we did for vehicles account. The date will be 31st of December 20x7, and based on the nature of this balance carried down, we are going to bring it down the next year as balance brought down. So balance brought down 31st of December, January the 1st, January 1st, 20x8. So our next year has begun. So we are going to go back to the depreciation schedule and we will see what happens in the next year. The next year, this is the next year in summary here. So the first event happens here. We bought a new van, $35,000. So we'll come to the double entry records. This is the relevant account. We are going to choose the debit side for this event. This happened on September the 1st, 20x8. The entry will be done with cash because we paid for it. Debit the vehicles account and credit the cash account. This is the entry here. 35,000 is the cost of this van. So we are going to debit this, right? We understand this entry? Give me a green check, right? We do understand that last year जब हमने vans खरीदी थी तो हमने super motors को refer किया था because those were the purchases on credit. So vehicle account debit, super motors credit. But now vehicle accounts are going to be debited here and cash will be credited since you're buying it with cash. Good. Then we will move on to the second event here in the depreciation schedule. It says that you charge depreciation, and these are the depreciation charges in the third year. So can you tell me the total of this? We can write them individually, but that will only take extra space and waste some time. So we might as well have the total calculated, 6,300, 6,300, and 3,500. What's the total depreciation charge for the second year? 16,100. Thank you, Aspa. So instead of doing it, we could do that. Just like the last year, मैंने इसलिए last year मैंने breakdown दे दिया और अब मैं इस बार I will just write one figure for depreciation of the current year, 16,100, and the examiners understand that how you calculate the 16,100 because you have already shown the calculation over here. This is 16,100 here, right? So 16,100 is going to be charged to the income statement, and we are going to show that this is the expense that will be charged in the second year. And once it is done, you're going to repeat the same process. You're going to close down the accounts for the second year and determine the closing balances. 95,000 is the closing balance in the vehicle. So balance carried down on 31st of December 20x8. And this account, provision for depreciation account, will have a closing balance of 34,100 to be reported on 31st of December 20x8, right? So, do we understand this? Let's just write a big line here ताकि आप आपस में confuse ना करें इसको, right? So, do we understand the second year? Please give me a green check if we do, as in if we do understand that the depreciation entry is going to be on the credit side. I forgot to put the date. The date will be 31st of December. Depreciations are usually charged at the end of each year unless there is an exception to be created, which we know that it is going to happen in the third year, 20x8, right? So we all agree, Iman Badr, we don't? We do. Very good. Now, the third year, that is a troublesome year, right? The third year, we are going to bring down the balances as usual here. So $95,000 balance brought down in the third year, January the 1st, 20x9. And this third year, we are going to bring down this balance, January the 1st, 34,100, balance brought down, January 1st, 20x9. Now, January 1st, 20x9 से हम third year शुरू करें and we have this disposal happening. So the first event happening in order is this depreciation charge, right? So this depreciation charge is going to be recorded here on the provision for depreciation account on the credit side. And we know this is not the usual depreciation charge. This is that exceptional depreciation charge, and we created this exception only for the reason that this particular van has been disposed of and will cease to exist by 31st of December because that is the usual day when we charge our depreciations. So this van will not be there. So that is why we are making an exception here for that van. So June the 30th, we are going to charge a depreciation here. This is how much? What was the value? I forgot. 2205, right? So 2205, that is the depreciation value. And for reference, you can write that this is the depreciation on van 1 only, right? Because the other two vans are going to be depreciated on their usual day, which is 31st of December, not 30th of June. So that is done. And the second set of entries are going to be here, 31st of December 20x9, right? So we are going to charge depreciation. The second entry here, 31st of December 20x9, which is their usual depreciation charging date. Okay. And that would come out to be how much? 4410 plus 9450. ये कितनी बनती है? How much does this come out to be? 13,860. Thank you, Asma. Please do your own calculations. If Asma makes a mistake, we're all doomed. Right. 13,860. Very good, Elena. Thank you, Amal. All right. So 13,000. Okay. So as far as our depreciation schedule goes, we are done with the entries over here, but the work is not done. So what do we mean by the work is not done over here? We know that there are some parts of our records which are not giving you the true and fair pictures. Why? Number one, first of all, yesterday we discussed what do we mean by the term balance brought down in vehicles accounts. So can you please write a small sentence to describe me the meaning of the balance brought down $95,000 on 1st of January 20x9? What do we mean by this? Yesterday we discussed कि balance brought down का मतलब क्या होता है, right? Okay, it does mean, thank you everyone. It's not, marine value is a very general expression. No, we have to be extremely specific over here. Fajr also, value, you said value of the assets at the end. No, balance brought down is at the beginning, not at the end. Asma, total cost of the vehicle from the previous year. Very good, Maheen. Total cost of all existing vehicles. Excellent, Maheen. Actually, this is the total cost of all your vehicles which exist on this date, 1st of January 20x9. Because you can see ये 95,000 आप कैसे आपके पास आया? आप over the years total cost accumulate करते जा रहे हैं ना? इन दोनों की vans की cost 60,000 बन गई, then you brought forward over here and added the new van to make it 95,000. So basically every year the act of carried down balance is being brought down. It simply means, very well done Ms. Madiha, that is the correct answer. It simply means that you keep on accumulating those values. So जैसे 60,000 accumulate होगी 95,000 पे, तो आपके पास इस वक्त total cost of सारी की, and we know this total cost represents 3 vans, right? So van 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Similarly, when you come to this depreciation charge over here, so this depreciation charge, this balance brought down here, 34,100, right? That means the total accumulated depreciation which rolled up to this point. So that means on 1st of January 20x9, we had the total cost of all vans 95,000, and we know that represents 3 vans. And similarly, on 1st of Jan, balance brought down of $34,100 here in the provision for depreciation account. That means it is the total accumulated depreciation on all the vans, including van 1. Now the problem over here is said that since this 95,000 includes van 1, and we know that we don't own van 1 now, van 1 has been sold. So we need to get rid of the records which we have in our books, which represents your van number 1. Do we understand that van number 1, since it is no longer ours, we have disposed it off on 30th of June 20x9. So our records must not have any traces left of that van which does not belong to us anymore. So give me a green check if you understand this part, that the disposed of vehicle does not belong to us, and our existing records must reflect this fact that this disposed of van should be eliminated from our records. Asma, we don't understand better. Mary? Somebody got dropped. Mary, अच्छा नहीं, Asma, नहीं समझ आ रही बेटे आपको? और मे बी अस्मा का इंटरनेट में कोई इशू है. Right. Okay. So we'll wait for Asma's comment. So how do we eliminate records when it comes to double entry system? If we are to eliminate some value from this 95,000, how do we do that? We always take it on the opposite side. अगर आप डबल एंट्री सिस्टम में 95 जैसे 60,000 की सेम साइड पे 35,000 आ रहा था, तो eventually it added up to 95,000. So in the double entry system, that's correct, Amal, very good. In the double entry system, if a value appears on the same side as the existing value, they are automatically added. But if you want to subtract, you will have to take that subtracting factor, that subtractive factor on the opposite end of the existing value. So we understand that if we want to subtract the cost of the vehicle which is disposed of, we will have to take it on the opposite side of this account, which is the credit side, as Amal has pointed out here. So I will put $35,000. Oh, sorry, not $35,000. What was the original cost of that asset? Van 1 was $30,000, right? So van 1, we will subtract $30,000 from this value. So we understand the placing of this $30,000 on the credit side of the van's account, right? Please give me a green check, right? No, Marine says. Very good, Marine. Minal. Marine probably has an issue with the 30,000 value, not the side. Is that correct, Marine? Okay, Marine, ask. Okay, Marine का question बिल्कुल valid है. Why did we choose $30,000 whereas the van was sold for 12,000 something? Right? I completely understand here Marine's problem over here. Marine has a problem that why did we put $30,000 over here? Right? Okay, Marine, the answer is that this 95,000 represents all the costs, right? This represents three vehicles, 30,000 ki vehicle 1, 30,000 ki vehicle 2, and 35,000 ki vehicle number 3. So this account which represents the cost of all the assets. So if we want to delete the records of the disposed of van, so we must delete that value which was originally a part of that record. So the $95,000 that appears on the debit side, which represents the cost of all the three vans, उसमें vehicle one का 30,000 included है. That is why we must subtract 30,000 over here. Do you understand? We need to subtract that value from here, which is originally a part of that original cost. Someone got dropped, right? So we understand why 30,000, why not that disposal value 12,000 here? Very good. Marine understands. Do we all understand why did we choose $30,000? Good. Very good. And we all understand it should be on the credit side because it should go down. The cost of the vehicle is going down because of this disposal, right? Very well. Madiha, आपका नहीं आया. Green check. Madiha is probably okay. Madiha is given. Now, what do we do with this? So we know that the vehicle account is going to be credited here, right? This is being credited here, right? So what is going to be debited here, the cross reference that we are going to put over here, this is actually what we call a transfer entry. So what we do is we will write transferred to disposal account. We are going to create a fresh account called the disposal account, and we are going to create this disposal account. The purpose of this disposal account is to calculate the profit or loss on this disposal, right? Okay. So disposal account. So basically every non-current account will have two permanent records, the vehicle account and the depreciation account, and a temporary disposal account in case if that non-current asset is disposed of. So if this is credited here and it is being transferred to disposal account, then the double entry will be completed over here because this account is being credited, so this account will be debited. So what we will do is we will have transferred from vehicles account over here, and this $30,000 is going to be transferred from this account to this account. So we understand here? The first thing that we need to do is we need to eliminate the data that we have been recording related to van 1. So we choose the first account, in this case that is the vehicle account here, right? And वहाँ से हमने वो value eliminate कर दी जो कि उस van से related इस account में पड़ी हुई थी, and that was $30,000. So how do we eliminate it? We choose the opposite end, and then we are going to transfer this amount from this vehicle account, and we transfer it to another temporary account called the disposal account. So if you understand this procedure, give me a green check. If you don't, I'll explain again. Alina Sayed, Marine, good. Now we are going to update our second record, and before I do that, I forgot the date. I must put the date. Dates are extremely important. So this is 30th of June, 20x9, right? So we must not forget about the date. Now comes the second account, which is the provision for depreciation account. Provision for depreciation account is a record of accumulated depreciation. And we know that whatever we have been recording on the credit side of this account, it also includes traces of depreciation charged on van 1. So now we need to know how much depreciation has been charged on van number 1, because that record has to go with van as well. Just like the cost was taken away from the cost account, the provision for depreciation account must be subject to a subtraction here as well. And the subtracted value would be the total depreciation that has been charged up to the date of disposal. Yes, Alina Sayed, we will write the date 30th of June 20x9. But how do we know how much depreciation have we charged on van 1? So we come back to our depreciation schedule, right? We can see van 1 column, and that's why this way of presenting these workings are much easier, because now everything is organized and sorted. So you can tell 9,000 हमने पहले साल में depreciation charge की थी, 6,300 हमने second year में depreciation charge की थी, and uh, and then 2205 was charged in the third year. So how much was the total accumulated depreciation charge on van 1? You can either add the three values here. Can you tell me what the total 17,505, Mariam Amal? Thank you very much. Is that 17,505? Right? Or you can do a shortcut over here. 30,000 was the original cost. The eventual net book value is 12,495. And the difference between cost and net book value is always the depreciation charges. So you can simply take 30,000 and minus the 12,495. You will find the accumulated depreciation charge. Or you can simply add these three. So whichever way you choose, you will end up getting 17,505, as Amal and Alina has verified here. So now we come back, and how do we do this? We take 17,505 on the debit side. We need to subtract, so we will choose the opposite end here, right? Or we can take reference from this arrow, since it needs subtraction. Subtraction means decrease. So we will choose the debit side. We calculate 17,505 and we transfer it just like the previous transfer. We are going to transfer it to the disposal account, right? The date being June the 30th, 20x9, right? And this double entry is going to be completed here from this account to this account. Since provision for depreciation account has a debit side entry, the transfer entry must fulfill the double entry on the credit side of the disposal account. So we are going to put transfer from provision for depreciation vehicles, right? And I forgot to put the dates. Obviously, the date is going to be the same, 30th of June 20x9. Understood? Please give me a green check if you understand the two transfer entries over here. And we also understand the reason behind these two transfer entries. The reason behind the two transfer entries is simple. Since this van is no longer ours, we have disposed it of. So whatever records that we have been maintaining related to this van must be eliminated from your existing records. And that is why we are subtracting them and we are transferring them to a temporary disposal account. Okay, Minal, we don't understand? Better. Good. Now, अच्छा अब हम आखिरी चीज़ की बात करते हैं, but going back to our schedule. If you refer to the book, it says that you sold this van for, I think, $14,000. Yes or no? It was $14,000, I believe. मेरे पास book मैंने पीछे रख दी है. Was it $14,000? Yes. I need to open the page again. So if you can tell me, looking at the book, you sold van one for $14,000? Yep. Thank you, Maheen. Thank you. Thank you, Amal. Thank you, Alina. Sasma. It was $14,000. Now, looking at van one column, if I ask you, did you make any profit on disposal of van or a loss on disposal of van? What should it be? कोई टाइम बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया आपकी क्लास तो नहीं कोई शुरू हो रही आगे I just need 5 minutes, right? Can we have 5 more minutes? 11:40 हो गया मुझे पता ही नहीं चला. Okay, thank you so much because I don't want to leave it in here. Okay, Asma says profit, right? Very good. Maheen says profit, right? How do we know it's profit? We can see that over the course of using this van, the van started off with $30,000 of cost, but it was used for $9,000, and then the net book value was $21,000, and so on and so forth. And eventually, at the time of its disposal, the van, मैंने उसको highlight इसीलिए किया हुआ green में, the van actually carries the net book value of 495. The net book value is another way of saying that according to your assumptions, the worth of this van in your eyes, that van man, according to your set of assumptions in your eyes, what was it worth when you sold this van? It was worth 12,495, even though you bought it for $30,000. But remember, you used it for 2.5 years as well. So after 2.5 years of usage, the van, according to your set of assumptions, is just worth 12,495. And if that 12,495 van is sold for $14,000, that means you sold it more than it's worth. And that must have resulted in a profit, right? So that is why, if we are to exactly calculate the profit, so let's say if this was, they get sold for $14,000, right? So we can always find sold for $14,000. So we can always find the profit. Profit कितना होगा इसके ऊपर वैसे. Again, everything if needed to be understood within the double entry system, you must understand it outside the double entry system first, so that your reasoning is in place. 1505. Excellent. So our profit must be 1505. So now we are going to justify this. And this profit is the reason why we take away these records from here and transfer to the disposal account. Because disposal account, the sole purpose of having this disposal account is to find out, did we make any profit or loss out of this transaction. So once we sold it for $14,000 cash, what do we do? What do we debit and what do we credit? We sold van one for $14,000 of cash. So do you agree that we should debit the cash or bank account and we should credit the vehicles account? That is the journal entry for selling the van. हमने ये जर्नल एंट्री बहुत बार पहले बचपन में जब हम ट्रांजैक्शन सीख रहे थे करना डबल एंट्री में, तो हमने वहाँ पे सीखी थी. यू सोल्ड मशीनरी फॉर कैश, यू डेबिट कैश क्रेडिट मशीनरी. You sold vehicles for cash, you debit cash and credit the machinery or vehicles account. Yes? But that was obviously our bachpan, and obviously things change. So what has changed? We are not going to put this entry. This is a wrong entry. Let me just put the wrong entry first and then I'm going to erase it. If you put cash over here, $14,000, this is wrong. Why is this wrong? Because if we debit cash and credit vehicles account, this should come here, right? This entry is wrong. Why is this entry wrong? Okay, चूंकि time कम हो रहा है मैं जल्दी से बता देता हूँ, right? Okay, remember the van which has been disposed of has already been taken away from this account as well as from this account. So vehicles account and provision for depreciation account has absolutely nothing to do anymore with van 1. So if there is a transaction related to van 1 now, that is not going to be accommodated in any of these two accounts. Now these two accounts, after these transfers, these two accounts only represent van 2 and van 3 because van 1 से related जितने भी records थे वो आप यहाँ से eliminate करके disposal account में transfer कर चुके हुए. So this entry is wrong. We cannot have cash $14,000 over here. Instead, the disposal account is now representing your van 1 जो dispose off हुई है. So this, the correct way of showing this would be cash here on the credit side of this van, 30th of June 20x9, $14,000 over here. यहाँ पे मैंने वैल्यू क्यों नहीं लिखी? 17,505. Sorry, that value that transferred from there. So we understand the disposal account is going to have the credit side entry for $14,000, not the vehicles account, because vehicles account now has nothing to do with the disposed of van. The disposal account represents the disposed of van. Give me a green check if you agree that this cash 14,000 should appear on the credit side of this van. Mediha and Misha. Okay, very good. So after this, our van account, vehicles account is complete. So we are going to just close it down just like normal. We do $95,000 here, debit side pay, subtracted $30,000, and you can see automatically the balance to be carried down to the next year comes down to 65,000, which only represent van 2 and 3, not van 1, because that is what we wanted to achieve. We wanted to take away van 1's record from there. So 31st of December 20x9 is going to be transferred this one to next year. Next year when you begin, your balance is not going to be 95,000 but 65,000, because van 1 is no longer a part of your books anymore. And same goes with the depreciation account. So whatever the balance carried down comes over here, you are going to bring it down here just like normal. But what about the disposal account? When we close the disposal account, and we know why disposal account is there, it is there just to calculate the profit or loss on disposal. So when we balance this account, right, we will see the credit side is bigger because this comes out to be 31,505, right? 31,505 here. And if we balance this, then the balancing figure comes 1505, and we had calculated this 1505 already here, right? Remember, this is the profit here. So this way we are going to calculate the profit of 1505, and that will be your profit on disposal, and that will happen on 31st of December 20x9, because you will be making your income statement on 31st of December 20x9, and that tells you that you should not forget to take 1505 as profit on disposal in your income statement, and वहाँ पे हम इसको as an additional income treat करेंगे. So this is how we calculate the profit on disposal of vehicle. So this is your complete. मैं अभी ये सारी की सारी sheet आपके साथ share कर दूंगा. Okay? Don't worry. No need to take any screenshots over here. You'll get a full resolution PDF in a bit. So we understand. अच्छा, Alina Sayed का question आया हुआ. Sorry, Alina, मैं भूल गया. Why credit side though our assets as cash are increasing? Obviously. यस अलीना, तो हम किसको, कौन से वाले एसेट को डेबिट करेंगे? हम कैश अकाउंट को डेबिट करेंगे ना, जो इंक्रीज कर रहा है. डिस्पोजल अकाउंट में तो हम क्रेडिट साइड एंट्री करेंगे ना, राइट? डू वी अंडरस्टैंड अलीना? सिंस वी आर रिसीविंग कैश, सो कैश अकाउंट विल बी डेबिटेड. सो कैश अकाउंट के अंदर यहाँ पे उसने मांगा नहीं हुआ, लेकिन जो भी आपका कैश अकाउंट बन रहा होगा, कैश अकाउंट में $14,000 डेबिट साइड पर आएगा ना, और यहाँ पे हम डिस्पोजल का रेफरेंस दे देंगे. ठीक है? सो दिस एंट्री है, it will be dealt with like this, right? So if we understand the disposal account, this is a lot of work, trust me, and this is the beginning of depreciation. So you can well imagine where things are going to go in a week's time. So this is all about your depreciation double entry record. This is the introduction, basics, just the basics. So if we agree with everything, I'm going to share this PDF in a bit. So give me your final green check and then we will call off this class. I'm sorry, this class has gone way beyond its time. I'm really sorry for that. All right. Adya, Iman. Okay, good. चलिए ठीक है. Now you can log off. अब मैं आपके साथ ये PDF अभी थोड़ी देर में शेयर करता हूँ. Bye bye. Thank you, Asma. Khud Hafiz.